So this is the inside of our hearth. If you see down here, there's a metal grate so that our material won't fall through. Under the metal grate, it's right over here, there's a lighting port. You can see where it is on the outside of the hearth. So what we're going to do is we're going to put our screen back in place, and we get coal, and we're going to put coal under on this screen. So let's do that now. Take some coal. We want to make a nice good layer of coal. Now that we have our coal in there on the bottom, that's what's going to keep our biomass material lit. After we have our coal in, we have two different sizes of chips, of wood chips of juniper. So we take the first little kindling bit, and we make a layer of kindling. Once we get the kindling loaded to about here, then we will put larger burnable material over the juniper, and then we're going to light it. So we'll come back to you once this is full and we're ready to light. Now that we have our material in there, we're going to attempt to light it from our ignition port with this torch. And now about a few seconds of this, and our material inside should light. That should be good enough to get it going. Alright, now we have to let it sit for a minute. As you see, there's some smoke starting to come out, but it's gonna take a little bit for it, and we're gonna have to prime it with our motor here in a minute to get it going. So we'll be back in a minute. So now that our biomass material is going nice and good and it's burning nice and hot, and we're getting a little bit of flame, we're gonna start now adding our other material to this, and then burning it. So once I start adding material in here, it's going to start to get really smoky, and you're probably not going to see much. So I'm going to start doing it slow, and then once it gets to smoke, I'll cut to when we put the lid back on. So now that our lid is on, we're going to have to air seal this. And once we have that going, we're going to continuously prime over there with that little pump, and we'll cut to that in a second here. We'll see right now that we have our material lit, and it's being constantly primed, it's constantly under vacuum. We have our air intake manifold right here, and this is where all of our air goes in to here, and then into this barrel, and then up into our hearth to fuel the half combustion of our wood. After it goes through our exhaust over here, it goes all through up here into this expansion tank, and then in the expansion tank a lot of the vapor is removed, and we also use this to exchange the heat. After that, it goes into these two filter buckets that are hooked up in parallel. They have a cyclone-like design, also just an expansion tank, and then goes into a filter. And the lower buckets are for the waste housing where everything drips into. And then after that, it goes into this pipe to the head of our car. Now at the end, here is our lit syngas. That's being produced by the wood in the hearth. It's difficult to see in daylight. It's a very clear flame, which is very good for us to see because that means we're getting a very clean combustion.
So what we have here is a spot where the fuel line used to come in. It comes from the fuel pump on the side of the block through this line to the bulb, which is has an additional fuel filter in it, and then to the carburetor. And as you can see here, it's clearly not connected, and we've taped this off to prevent any additional air leaks into the carburetor.
As you can see, we have 3 valves here, 1, 2, and 3rd valve. So ideally, this valve would restrict the flow of the syngas into the engine, and that valve would supply the air intake to mix our gas with air so it ignites.